a national hero in February 2008. So Eric Gairy was a visionary. He was able to envision ideas and bring them to life, ideas that others thought were impossible. He was a great and strategic negotiator who was able to successfully bargain to get the best results for both sides. He was attuned to the plight of Grenada's working class, yet he had the ability to lobby, to reach across the aisle, and parley with dignitaries, diplomats, and heads of state locally and internationally. Now, he was also a community organizer, a master at mobilizing people, and a man of action. One of his quotes was, "The things that appear impossible, we do them right away." And today, as we celebrate national heroes, his story is our history. I'll give you a breakdown of some of the things he was able to accomplish for Grenada, why he is a national hero, because you're probably curious, why is he a national hero? What are the conditions that the working class were working under, people that were working on cocoa estates and nutmeg estates, and he got involved right away with trade unionism, something he started in Aruba working in the oil fields. So he encouraged the workers to strike, and the strike was very successful. It paralyzed the country. The people in charge, they had to take notice of what was happening. Initially, they locked him up, but when things were out of control, people were looting, and that's the working class, the less fortunate, the people that were considered to be at the bottom of the food chain, so to speak. So they were like, they had no choice to kind of do the strike to get a better quality of life for themselves and for their families. So when the government realized that the situation was out of control, they had to release him so he can come and talk to the people, and he was the one that got them to stop the violence and settle down. So that was a huge win for the working class of Grenada, and with that he was able to establish a trade union. It was called the Grenada Manual and Mental Workers Union, where he was able to bargain to get a 50% wage increase for people that work in the factories, and he was able to gain a 20% wage increase for people that worked on the cocoa estate and nutmeg estate, because we know that Grenada was indeed like one of the leading producers and exporters of nutmeg. So he was able to do that through his trade union. He established himself as a man of the people that didn't have a voice, the people that didn't have much power. He was able to really be their advocate, and that made him beloved by the people. They referred to him as Uncle Gairy, and they were always ready to kind of work with him because they know that he had their best interests at heart. So with the success of that trade union, he was able to establish Grenada's first organized political party. It was called the Grenada United Labour Party, and he did that in the same year, 1951. So it just goes to show he's a man of his words, he's a man of action, and he saw the opportunity to kind of build on the trade union, and he came up with the party. And he also was a huge advocate for voting rights. Like back then, only people that owned property or people that were making very high income was able to vote. Like, the majority of the population wasn't allowed to vote. So he made it possible for them to vote by Grenada obtaining universal adult suffrage in 1951. So because of that, the majority of people can go out and vote, and obviously they supported him, and he became leader. Like between 1961 and 1962, he was the head of government. Between 1967 and 1974, he was the premier of Grenada. So he really paved the way, and he did a lot to bring Grenada into what we know it today. Like many of us only think of Grenada's history starting in 1979 with the revolution and the overthrow of Eric Matthew Gairy by Morris Bishop. But if you really look back and do your research, you will see that Eric Matthew Gairy was the man that did the most for Grenada. He really is in a league of his own in that regard. So he came to Montreal in 1967. He witnessed Expo 67 here in Montreal, and he went back home and he wanted to implement that in Grenada as well. He didn't waste any time. He told the people on his cabinet what he envisioned. He wanted to bring an expo type event to Grenada, and they thought he was out of his mind. Like, are you kidding me? Grenada, you're gonna have an expo here in Grenada, you know? But he did it. He made it happen. And the grounds, the location is a place called True Blue in the south of the island. Now it's really developed and it's a huge tourist spot. There's many resorts and hotels there. But back then in 79, it was kind of like swampland. So people couldn't imagine that he was gonna set up an expo exhibit there. But he did it. He built a dome and it was beautiful, and many countries from the Caribbean came to display their businesses and their wares at Expo 69, and that was a huge success. Like in my research, I even found articles online that was printed back then from Los Angeles, for example, talking about and promoting Grenada's Expo 69. So we can say that he was indeed a man that was ahead of his time. So Grenada gained independence officially in 1974. And again, it was Eric Matthew Gairy that the Right Honorable Sir Eric Matthew Gairy. He helped build schools and clinics in Grenada, giving people all over the island, you know, in rural areas everywhere, access to education, access to clinics where they can take care of themselves and take care of their health. He was the one that had the idea for the international airport. I was watching a YouTube video as I was preparing for this, and one member of his cabinet was saying how one day, just out of the blue, he told them, oh, we're going on a trip, and they went to kind of scope the site and the grounds that would be Grenada's international airport as we know it today.